Can I just say that I don't understand the movie going public sometimes? Like, the Disney live-action remakes, for example. We all spent years yelling at Disney for vomiting up half-digested classics and feeding it to us again with the excuse of, it's fine, people remember what it's supposed to taste like.
Ew!
I was under the impression that we were all on the same page about this, but then something changed. 2023 came, and the upcoming remake of Snow White started making the rounds.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
A lot of people didn't take kindly to this. Some people thought it was dismissive towards the original movie, some people thought it was just pushing a political message over telling a story, and some people listened to this and immediately went, female empowerment? Ugh, yucky. My personal reaction was along the lines of, oh, thank Christ they're doing something different. Now, look, I can understand voicing concern about the direction a movie is taking if you don't like the sound of it. And while the lack of enthusiasm continued on into the film's release, I'd argue this movie understands Snow White better than people give credit. If I haven't alienated you just yet, though, this next statement should do the trick. This movie's version of Snow White as a character is better than the animated one. That's not an insult to the animated Snow White. She's obviously an important part of Disney history and served as the basis for arguably the most iconic character archetype of the studio. And as a character, she's fine. You know, she's sweet and likable, but there's not an awful lot to her outside of that. She isn't much of a problem solver, she doesn't change or learn anything over the course of the story, and between the forest critters, the dwarves, and the prince, she basically spends most of the movie relying on other people to rescue her. Hell, she spends the climax of the movie fucking asleep. This isn't me arguing from a political stance, this is just me pointing out that she isn't a terribly compelling character because she doesn't have any kind of challenge to overcome. Here, there is actually an attempt to flesh Snow White out a little bit. The kindness of the animated character is still there, it's just presented in a bit more of a practical way. Take a look at her interactions with Grumpy, for example. In the original, Grumpy, being the curmudgeonly old dwarf that he is, didn't trust her at first, but over time warmed up to her because she was just so gosh darn wonderful.
And please make Grumpy like me.
Women.
That's nice in its own right, but in this version, there is actually an attempt on her part to see things from his point of view and find some common ground.
And you feel like they're not listening to sense?
Correct.
I take your point, Mr. Grumpy.
You... Wait.
This is a legitimate case where a Disney live-action remake actually builds on the original material and makes you realize Grumpy did actually kind of have a point. In the original, he's confronted with an intruder in his home, gets outvoted into letting her stay, and is basically just left to get over it.
Oh, we'll be quite comfortable down here in
a pig's eye.
The remake shows Snow White acknowledging Grumpy's concern, validating it, and making it known to the rest of the dwarves so they can get along better, and that's what makes him start to trust her. We also see a bit more exploration in her interactions with Dopey. Dopey in the original was not a particularly complex character. That's not a flaw, that's just the way it was. He's mute, smiles, and falls over a lot. Good for him. In the remake, they take it in a somewhat different direction where he isn't mute because he's dumb, he's mute out of insecurity because everyone around him sees him as dumb.
Are you afraid to speak?
So she helps him to take baby steps into boosting his confidence. Until he can work up the nerve to speak, she helps him communicate by teaching him to whistle, which slowly turns him into the most insightful and respected dwarf of the bunch.
I was thinking the same thing.
And hey, if your main concern about this movie stemmed from that one comment from Zegler about how she's not going to be saved by the prince, good news, the romance in this movie actually has more screen time in it than it did in the original. More screen time in this case meaning any. Yeah, I doubt that even the most avid Snow White fan would look at this remake and shame it for betraying the sanctity of this guy. Okay, so in this movie, he's not a prince. He's a thief and he has a name now.
Jonathan?
So that's exciting, and best of all, they give him an honest-to-God personality this time. He's sort of the thief with a heart of gold archetype. He's sly and crafty, but he steals only what he can't afford.
That's everything.
He has some decent banter with Snow White, with him being the cynical rogue and her being more idealistic, but they both want the same thing in being free from the Queen's oppressive rule. So that means the romance in the movie is well done, right? Let's talk about the music. Much like the other Disney live-action remakes, the songs are a mix of covers from the animated film with a few originals thrown in for good measure. The covers basically sound fine, and in terms of the originals, Waiting on a Wish isn't bad. It basically serves as a replacement for I'm Wishing from the original movie, and yeah, it's also just an improvement. Look, I'm just gonna say this now. As much as we all love Disney songs, can we all just take a moment to admit that the first one we ever got wasn't really that great?
I'm wishing for the one I love to find me.
It's fine, but there's not really much of a melody beyond da 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 da. That, and also the song has kind of been ruined for me by that one ProZD video. Lost, longing for you. So you can understand why I'd at least consider it an improvement when we go from that to this. Granted, this and the other original songs are not Disney music at their best. They're fairly standard songs for the studio without many surprises, but they're well composed and the performers across the board do a solid job, making for some pretty decent tracks overall.
All is fair except that one!
Okay, fine. I guess I should acknowledge the other big source of criticism for this movie, Gal Gadot. Just after the movie came out, one of the main points of criticism was Gadot's performance, and yeah, she's not great in this. She's trying to play a grim and unsympathetic character similar to the evil queen from the original, but anytime where she tries to act angry or threatening, it just comes off as silly.
Are you against me too? Are you?
When it comes to her original villain song though, All Is Fair, she actually isn't too bad. She's definitely the weakest singer in the cast, but she can hold a note reasonably well.
When I'm going out, mirror on the wall.
But what ruins it is that the mood of the song is all wrong. It's very loud and frantic sounding and going for a gleefully evil vibe, which just doesn't suit this character who's been shown throughout the movie as being very stern and no nonsense. Like, imagine if we saw Frollo in the gloomy Palace of Justice, his face illuminated by the harsh glow of the fireplace, tormented by visions of his own lustful obsession and conscience, resolving to capture Esmeralda or burn down the city he vowed to protect in trying. And all the while, the song playing throughout the scene sounds like this.
Could forgive, even forget, let you live. You'd be all set, but to start, I don't have the heart, as you may recall.
Okay, well, let's talk about the climax. Maybe focusing back on Snow White's journey will bring things back around to being positive. The movie retains the plot point from the original where Snow White eats the apple, dies, and then is revived by the prince, but it's not the resolution to the entire story like it was before. Once she's brought back, the queen is still a threat, leading to Snow White, Jonathan, and the dwarves to band together to stop her. We even get a little resolution to Dopey's character arc with him finally speaking for the first time, giving the rest of the group the courage they need.
She'll do everything she can to stop us.
Let her try.
They head back to the castle town where the queen has been aggressively ruling for years. And again, as a way of building on the material from the original movie, this isn't a bad idea. In the animated film, Snow White escaping from the queen who abused her and tried to kill her was all fine and good, but when you think about it, if this is how the queen treats her own stepdaughter, it stands to reason that she's not great to the kingdom as a whole either. And this is something that we hear about throughout the movie.
She turned the farmers into soldiers loyal only to her, and robbed the riches of the kingdom for herself.
So Snow White, being the type of person that she is, tries to encourage them to stand up for themselves, and she does it by doing the one thing that the queen never could, by being kind and showing them that they're seen and they matter. Even the queen's own guards who would stand against Snow White.
Paul. Matthew. William. I remember you. Do you?
It's a clever little callback to this moment from earlier when she first met the 7 dwarves.
Sneezy, sleepy, happy, grumpy, dopey, doc, and bashful. My mother always taught me that it was important to learn a name.
And just by being a friend to these people, they turn on the queen, who only ever saw them as something to be exploited. Now that the queen has no subjects and no army, there's nothing to protect her and nobody she can use for power. It's an inspiring depiction of the effect that being kind can have on the world, an appropriate challenge for a character like Snow White to face, and also the culmination of why this movie ultimately doesn't work.
What?
All of what I've mentioned about this climax is great theoretically, but in practice, it's the most obvious example of a problem that's been present all throughout the movie. For all the talking Snow White and Jonathan and all the other characters do about the oppression from the Queen and the citizens who are suffering and need saving, we never actually see any of it. The movie's opening scene shows the Queen's rise to power and stealing the people's wealth, but the film's idea of showing the citizens in desperation and poverty is to just show them looking a bit glum and desaturating the colors a bit. We don't see them hungry or in pain or in need or any tangible reason why we should sympathize with them. We barely even know any of these people as characters. This is the main source of drama throughout the movie, and it's got nothing to show for it. And it's for this reason why I can't get into the romance between Snow White and Jonathan. Their common desire to overthrow the Queen and make lives better for the kingdom is what that relationship hinges on. So while there's nothing necessarily wrong with either of these two, the romance, which is the other major source of emotion throughout the movie, is woefully underdeveloped. But there's this moment where it's revealed that the narrator throughout the movie is actually Dopey, who's recounting the story to the citizens.
And her name was Snow White.
It's a charming scene where we see just how far he's come and how much Snow White inspired and helped him by giving him the courage to speak. So this means the movie's good, right? Right? No, as much as I've defended this movie and as much as I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, it's still another bad Disney remake, which is frustrating because it almost works. It's one of the few Disney remakes that's actively trying to build on the original material, not just with a few kinda neat additions to an otherwise tepid retelling. It's rebuilding the story from the ground up, introducing new themes and morals that the original never tackled, while, in my opinion anyway, still demonstrating at least somewhat of an understanding of what made the original a classic. Sometimes it works. Like I said, I honestly really like this depiction of Snow White, but she's an 8 out of 10 character in a 4 out of 10 movie. Still, while I don't like this movie, at the very least, I respect it. And for a Disney live-action remake, that is a fucking miracle. It doesn't live up to the animated film, but it tried, which is more than I can say for most of these remakes. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters Heather Reed, Zelda, Moon Goddesses, The Hen Rolled, Chris Spicer, Jacob K, Wasp Sen, Andrew Taylor, Deceiver of Gods, and Antifa Count Duckula. Thank you so much for the support. If you'd like to see your name in the credits, along with early access to scripts and videos, as well as exclusive unused video thumbnails, or if you'd just like to chat with me, consider supporting me on Patreon for just $1.50 a month. The link is in the description.